Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Maureen Jensen, and I'm the editor of Technology Integrator, CD's Electronic Lifestyles, and I represent Dealerscope and the TEL Online Network. Welcome to CE Week. I will be doing the emceeing for the rest of the afternoon. We have a very full afternoon for you. So first up, we're going to hear exactly what's going on with Pioneer right now. I want to welcome Russ Johnston to the stage. And Russ is the VP of Corporate Communications for Pioneer. So take it away, Russ.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Russ Johnston. On behalf of Pioneer Electronics, I'd like to welcome all of you here to CE Week and our press conference. As some of you may have already heard, we've received some news this week from Japan about our company, which I would like to share all with you for a brief moment before we get started. Yesterday, Pioneer parent company, Pioneer Corporation, announced that both Onkyo Corporation and Baring Private Equity Asia is in discussions to invest in Pioneer Home Entertainment Corporation. We think this is good news. As two powerhouse companies, Onkyo and Pioneer will now be coming together, looking for ways to take a leadership position with our brand, with our technology, and with our innovation. And we now have the capital from Baring Private Equity Asia to expand on our strengths. Pioneer Home Electronics last year around this time was spun off to become very nimble and be able to adapt to the changing environment in the CE industry. And for the past 76 years, Pioneer has been a major industry innovator and influencer in the consumer electronics space. And it's part of our legacy, and we'll continue to do this, lead innovation in home electronics and in digital space, as you'll see with a bunch of our introductions here today. We're going to continue to sell products under our own brand name in the home electronic space. We think this is very important and obviously critical and crucial to all of our other business lines. We don't really have a lot of further information to cover with you at this time, but we are very encouraged with the impact that this could have with the future product development and expansion of our business line. With that said, I'll gladly meet up with all of you individually in our booth to cover off any questions you may have. And now, I would like to continue by telling you more about exciting new products we have here at CE Week that we announced. In a few minutes, you'll be hearing from Chris Walker. That'll talk to you about one of the most significant events in home theater sound technology in the last decade. When we launched surround sound technology for nearly 2 decades ago, this is really a big introduction for us. Dolby Atmos is the latest home theater surround technology and actually puts sound in motion. Pioneer will elevate your sound experience by being the first brand to actually introduce not only a full Atmos branded AV system. Our car electronics division over the past few months has been very busy introducing a bunch of products with products and features that will advance the connected car experience. This week, Pioneer has announced AppRadio Live. And it's an app developed by Pioneer that simplifies your drive by combining everything you need into a simple and easy-to-use singular screen. With that, I'd like to introduce Ted Cardenas, the Vice President of Car Electronics, to tell you more about AppRadio Live and our activities. Ted? Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Russ. Okay, good morning, everybody. Hopefully some of you were with us yesterday at the C3 conference, the Connected Car Conference, where we already talked a lot about this. But as Russ said, Pioneer, we've been very busy on the car electronics and the car entertainment side over the last several years. Russ mentioned that the company itself is about 76 years old, but we've been doing the car part for over 4 decades now. And what is car entertainment is a question that we get asked a lot these days. We've gone through a history of moving from traditional AM radio to FM radio to tape to compact disc to other forms of digital media, now streamed over the internet and through satellites. It's really a very interesting time. And what has evolved from that traditional broadcast media or media that you physically brought into your vehicle is to what we now call the connected car. And the connected car takes on a lot of terms. 3 years ago here at CE Week in New York, we introduced our AppRadio. And the AppRadio was unique because it was the first product of its type to actually let the smartphone do most of the heavy lifting. Applications ran on the connected smartphone, but you displayed that content and controlled it through the radio that installed in the dash of your vehicle. From there, of course, we've expanded to iPhone and iPod connectivity, Android connectivity. Last year here at CE Week, we introduced MirrorLink connectivity in our products. And then just a few months ago, many of you already are aware, we introduced or announced that we will be one of the first, if not the first, to have Apple CarPlay support for the vehicle. That will be an update that will come later this summer to 5 of our products that we've been shipping since March. But as we move beyond the connected car, we focus again on that core product, the AppRadio, which we introduced here at CE Week in 2011. Now, the AppRadio, again, is now in its 3rd generation, and it's significant because it combines connectivity for practically every type of smartphone that is out there in the market. iPhones, Android phones, MirrorLink phones, and even more. But what is significant about what our mission is with the connected car is we know that we have consumers who bought into Pioneer's connected car message 3 years ago. And we don't want, with all of these most recent announcements like Apple CarPlay and like MirrorLink support, we don't want to leave those consumers that bought into our system without some form of maintaining the connectivity in the connected car space. So as Russ mentioned, we're here this week to announce our AppRadio Live. And what's significant about AppRadio Live, you'll see we've got kind of 4 colors, and you'll learn a lot about this in the coming slides. But we've broken down through feedback directly from AppRadio users. We've learned that there really is 4 key components that most consumers want to use connected in their vehicle, and that's listening to music, whether that's music that's stored on the device or it's streamed over the cloud. That is learning about news that's significant to them, location-based news, things that are around them. That is looking at their calendar. You know, where do I have to be in an hour? Where do I have to be tomorrow? And then last but not least is getting map information. And again, being able to see what location-based services, whether it's restaurants or gas stations or ATMs, are physically around them. And AppRadio Live boils that all down into a single, easy-to-use, comprehensive interface. So next I'm going to cover just a few of the goals. You know, again, the goal of AppRadio Live was to continue Pioneer's connected car leadership. By, again, not only introducing the latest technology, but also bringing the latest technology to consumers that have already purchased a Pioneer product. We're doing that through several different ways. Number one, we're advancing the connected car experience with the development, this in-house development of this Pioneer AppRadio Live app. It is very unique because it seamlessly allows the consumer to access aggregated content from many of the most popular sources: music, events, traffic, weather, news, and more. And as I mentioned, this is all aggregated. So the consumers no longer have to have a variety of different apps on their phone and be accessing that through the AppRadio Live interface. Now all of this content is aggregated and collected in Pioneer's cloud and sent down over a single pipe into the AppRadio Live app. So it is very, very seamless, and it's very, very easy for the consumer to use. Again, we're leveraging that network connectivity of the connected smartphone. So the smartphone has really opened up the possibilities of this connected car world by giving us that internet pipe that allows us to connect to the cloud, and using that cloud-based Pioneer server to have that single interactive and easy-to-use application. And it is compatible with all AppRadio mode products for the iPhone. And just for reference, as I mentioned, 3 years ago in 2011 at CE Week, we introduced the original AppRadio. We've now put AppRadio mode in almost all of our navigation receivers, our DVD receivers, and of course our AppRadio products. Worldwide, that totals almost 2 million radios that have been sold to consumers. So this is a very significant update for almost 2 million consumers worldwide that now have access to AppRadio Live through their connected iPhone. Next, we'll give you a very brief demonstration video. It does move pretty quick, but it shows you how seamless it is. This is not sped up. This is actually in real time, the way the interface is possible to, or the interface actually does function as we move through the various screens. So that's AppRadio Live, and as I mentioned, it's available now. The app actually launched in the iTunes App Store on Sunday, so last Sunday, the 22nd, and we are working on the Android version of that right now. We expect that to be available later this year. But as you saw in the video, it really breaks all of the content that the consumer wants to access in their vehicle down to 4 primary quadrants, we call them. And of course, you can go back to that main screen, which shows you your mapping, your news, your music or media, as well as your calendar information at any time. But it really boils it down to this primary interface, the first of which is your map content. Now, the map content for the iPhone application actually uses the Apple Maps that's running on the phone. But it places on top of those maps information and traffic from INRIX, location-based points of interest that are around you, like restaurants, gas stations, ATMs, et cetera, and pulls in Yelp ratings as well. So you can see that. And then we are working with Event Seeker to bring in related content about information that might be around you that you might be interested in. And I'll get to how that determines that in a minute. The next is news. And news content is actually being brought in from Open Weather Map currently. So you'll get information about the weather that's around you both today as well as a 5-day forecast. Also Feedly, and Feedly, if you're not familiar with it, is a service, a web-based service that will bring in RSS feed information, bring in other news information. So you sign up on an account with Feedly and you tell it what information. My daughter's cheerleader, she's 5 years old, but yes, she's already in cheerleading. They have an RSS feed, so I can find out when practice is and when their next event is. I can set that up with Feedly and have that show up on my AppRadio Live application. So we're feeding this with a lot of different content that will show up in your news feed. Calendar is very unique because it, again, accesses the calendar on the iPhone to bring in your appointment schedule and other information. But again, it will use the Event Seeker application to suggest or to pull in any events, concerts, sporting events, et cetera, that you have registered for or added to your calendar. And then it will even go into your Facebook calendar. Now, this isn't a two-way Facebook integration. You're not posting any information out to Facebook. You're not reading any information out to, from Facebook. But what it will do is if you have accepted any invitations to events in Facebook, it will place those into your AppRadio Live calendar and allow you to see that visually on the screen. And then last but not least, of course, is media. Media and music is such a core component of the driving experience. It has been for 7 decades. And so we are working to aggregate content from RDO, from Stitcher, as well as what we call the Pioneer Radio Network. And that's an aggregated network of internet radio stations, again, developed through the Pioneer Cloud and accessed through the AppRadio Live app. So that really is AppRadio Live. Again, in summary, Pioneer is very proud to be delivering this dynamic content to the car through the AppRadio Live application. That's all I have for you today. Thank you. Next up is going to be Chris Walker, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our latest home AV products.
Thank you, Ted. Good afternoon, everybody. Today I wanted to share some information about some of the new products we're going to be showing here upstairs at CE Week. Before I get into the actual new products, I want to go over a little bit about the new technology, which is Atmos. But let me give you a little brief history of kind of the modern surround sound. Back in 1982, Dolby launched Dolby Surround Sound for the home market. This was a basic 3-channel system. Pioneer happened to be the first manufacturer to launch a receiver based on this with our VSX 5000. 5 years later, they launched Dolby Pro Logic. This added a 4th channel of audio, and once again, we were first to market with an AV receiver, the VSX 9300. Coming in 1995, back when Laserdisc was in his heyday, Dolby Digital was launched. Back then it was called Dolby AC3, but once again, we were able to launch the receiver first to market. Now, since then, Dolby True HD came out, which is basically another 5 or 7 channel version of an audio system, but with a much higher bandwidth than the previous version. The problem is that all these previous versions of surround sound were channel-based, which means that a specified track of audio or content was directed to a specific channel to be played back in a room, and that was it. It was exciting. It was great to have this type of experience in the home, but it was kind of a flat experience. With technology in the video space becoming more and more advanced with 3D television sets, with 4K content, audio has kind of remained still for the last 10 years. So we knew that there was something that had to happen. So Dolby launched Dolby Atmos for the theaters a few years ago, and now it's finally making it for the home. Rather than me explaining exactly what Dolby Atmos is and how it made it to the home, I've got a video here directly from Dolby that should explain everything. I'll come back and explain how Pioneer is going to take advantage of that.
At Dolby, we're passionate about sound, and we come to work every day to change the world, both in the cinema and for consumers in the home. Most recently, we revolutionized the theatrical experience with Dolby Atmos.
It's immersive, it's natural, it's lifelike, and it's 3-dimensional. And it brings a new reality to the movie-going experience. With the introduction of object-based audio, a Dolby Atmos soundtrack can envelop the audience with sound from all directions, even directly overhead.
The traditional way that sound was mixed was with channels, where a specific audio channel would go to a specific speaker. With object-based audio, the sound is represented as individual audio objects, and they can be positioned anywhere in 3-dimensional space.
Dolby Atmos gives content creators an entirely new palette for which to design audio soundtracks. It brings a new sense of reality, a new sense of entertainment to the cinematic experience.
In less than 2 years, more than 80 first-run movies feature a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Now Dolby is ready to bring this experience to the home.
This is the most revolutionary technology that we have brought to the home since the introduction of surround sound more than 20 years ago. Key to reproducing the height plane is the introduction of speakers above the listener.
We recognize that that's not practical for very many people. So we invented a new type of speaker that actually reproduces that height experience from a speaker that sits on the floor. That brings object-based audio to the consumer.
By combining signal processing with a unique speaker design, we can accurately reproduce audio objects in the height plane above the listener.
Dolby Atmos enabled AV receivers and speakers will transform your home into a lifelike soundstage.
Audio will move above, around, and sometimes even through you.
We're excited to tell you more about this amazing new technology. But for now, sit back and join us as we introduce you to the Atmos experience.
Well, I can assure you it works much better than apparently the file on my computer. That was quite something. I'd like to thank everybody involved in making that possible. So the next section, I want to talk about how Pioneer is going to be supporting Atmos and bringing it more into the consumer field. Speakers, Pioneer has a long history of manufacturing speakers for the home. Back in the 70s, we kind of dominated the market from a high-end perspective. That changed over the last 20, 30 years to where the market's been dominated by European brands or more American brands in the US. 3 years ago, out of Pioneer North America, we developed an American Source speaker project to where myself, Andrew Jones, along with my boss, Takeo Miyazaki, we started developing speakers for the North American market out of our office. We design them, we have them built, and we sell them in the market. In the past 3 years, we have gone from 0% market share to the number 5th market share leader in units. We're the number 1 selling speakers on Amazon.com, number 1 selling speakers at Best Buy in all categories, whether they're bookshelves, floor standers, centers, or subs. These were brought at an entry-level price point. And they've done very, very well, yet received tons of great accolades from everybody from Stereophile, from Absolute Sound, to Sound and Vision, from a variety of different sources. We wanted to take those strengths we did there and bring those into the home theater space with Atmos. With that, we will be supporting Atmos on both sides of this with a line of AV receivers in the Elite line, with a brand new Elite line of Atmos-enabled speakers called the Elite 5.1.4 system. We are now going to have to think of channels and how we describe home theaters a little bit differently. We have the traditional 5.1 channel bed that we talk about, but now we have height speakers. And as they mentioned in the video, or tried to mention in the video, you now have height speakers in the physical sense where you actually have a speaker mounted on the ceiling, or you have Dolby-enabled speakers where there's an extra driver in the top with its own input that is now projected up off the ceiling and comes down to the listener. The effect is absolutely far beyond my expectations, and I think they met Andrew's as well, as far as what this can deliver in the home. Everything in this lineup was designed by Andrew. I think Andrew has been one of the keys to the success of the product. Andrew, if you don't know, has been designing speakers for most of his life, worked at Kef, at Infinity or Harman, and he's been with Pioneer for the last 14 or 15 years, designing everything from being our chief speaker engineer for our technical audio devices products, now to the Pioneer branded products, not only speakers, but sound bars, and also a sound base we'll talk about in a little bit. So the traditional ceiling speakers, one of the things that we thought was going to be a roadblock to something like Atmos is how difficult it was going to be to install, or that you had to buy more speakers and put them in your home. So a typical in-ceiling experience requires you to actually put speakers in your ceiling, run wires, and all those types of technologies. We believe the key to Atmos success and the advancement of this type of technology is the enabled type speaker. That's the type of product that we created. The goal of this is it doesn't require a complicated installation. We can occupy a complete Atmos system in the exact same platform or space as a traditional 5.1 channel system. The key is going to be the Dolby-enabled speaker technology. Here's a close-up of one of our new bookshelves showing the top-firing driver. This driver is at a specific angle with a specified crossover that delivers a certain frequency response and output that actually takes that sound and directs it to the ceiling and back down to the listener. Now, there's a completely separate input on the back of the speaker for this. So on the rear of the channel, or on the rear of the speaker, which I think I show here, there's a height speaker input and there's a front speaker input. If you're not going to use a Dolby Atmos system, you would simply just connect the front speaker input and they'll operate as a traditional home theater or an audio speaker. But by adding the 4 more wires, and that's going to be a key message point from Pioneer, is what do you need to have Atmos in the home? From a cabling perspective, is just run 4 more wires. Run an extra set to the front and an extra set to the rear, and you're done. It's going to be really that simple. Now, in order to make the setup process and the calibration process as simple as possible, we've updated our room calibration software, which we call MCACC, which is a fantastic name, by the way, to support Dolby Atmos and calibrate these in-ceiling speakers. So it'll detect if the speakers are physically in the ceiling or they're the Dolby-enabled speakers and set up everything automatically for you. This kind of shows the core speaker design. One of the things about a brand new speaker design is to make sure that everything sounds the same, whether it's coming out of the front left channel, the front right, the rear left, or the top speaker. So everything is the core design. You can see here on the top of this, we actually have a upward-facing driver, which I think I talked about in the next slide, is a completely new developed Pioneer driver, which is housed in its own enclosure, along with another driver facing forward and then the bass driver. So it's a true 3-way speaker. If we take a look at the concentric driver, this is designed from scratch. Andrew is known for the concentric type driver where the tweeter is actually placed in the middle of the mid-range to make sure that all the sound comes out naturally and arrives everybody at this exact same time frame. We use an aluminum mid-range. I'm not going to go into too many details. We can share that upstairs. This kind of shows all the benefits of it. I won't cover here. We also developed a brand new bass driver that's utilized the entire system. So every bookshelf, floor stand, and center channel utilize the exact same drivers, just in multiples of them as well. So here's the lineup of the product. So the bookshelf speakers are $749 a pair. These are the Atmos-enabled product. The floor standing speakers are $699 each. The center channel is $399. and the subwoofer is at $599. This is actually a very powerful subwoofer. It's a 10-inch woofer, but it has a huge amplifier. It's a Class HG or Bash style amplifier, huge voltage capability, so it's going to deliver a very dramatic a very dramatic experience for bass based on today's dynamic soundtracks, because now we have a lot more content going to the LFE, or if you're using the bookshelves, that'll be routed to the LFE channel when you're listening to your home. It's going to be a good seller for us. Now, from an AVR lineup, we're going to offer our top 3 models. So these are all 9-channel models. Pioneer believes that the best Atmos experience comes from having this 5.1.4 system. There are going to be models available in the industry that'll be a 5.1.2 system, which basically means you're only going to have 2 height drivers, whether they're in the ceiling or they're mounted into the top of the speaker for the Dolby enabled package. So we're only including Atmos on our 9-channel models so we can deliver what we believe is the most compelling experience from Atmos. All models will be shipping in late August. And the firmware, these will all be upgradable models. In order to meet the needs of our retailers and get product into the stores in time, we'll ship the models first without it and then make a firmware update available soon afterwards, which is simply just hit the network update button or use a USB thumb drive. So it'll be that simple. Plus, there'll be a new user's manual for people to help set the product up. So another item we're launching here at the show is a new sound base. Last year, we launched our first sound bar in over 10 years. I think we may have been actually first to the category over 10 years ago. We're launching this year a new sound base. This is once again Andrew Jones designed. It features the research we've done, 90% of televisions, flat panels that are sold, are put onto a pedestal. They're not wall mounted. For that customer, a sound bar doesn't necessarily make sense because it may sit higher than the television. It presents an option. Most people don't want to mount it to walls even if it's there. So having the sound base type product, by simply putting the TV on top of the sound base, using a single wire connection from the television to it, and you're done. Once again, we're going for those who care about sound. This is a product that delivers far and above the expectation at the price point from what our competitors will offer. For the first time, once again, designed by Andrew. It's in his contract I was supposed to picture at least every 8 minutes. I'm pretty sure, but we'll see. For the first time, too, we're going to add some 3D audio expansion. We are calling it expansion mode. This will actually take the soundbar or the sound base experience, since it has a narrow width, that will give you an openness and actually open up movie soundtracks. It'll only work for movies, but it actually sounds quite good when you guys have a chance to listen to it. Built-in dual woofers. One of the goals of this type of product was to eliminate the need to have a dedicated subwoofer to enjoy a good movie or deliver a good audio experience from music. I think if you guys have a chance to listen upstairs, you'll see this delivers far more bass than you would expect out of such a small package. Bluetooth music streaming, we had this in our soundbar last year. One of the advantages we did this year is we've updated the Bluetooth module in there. So now you can actually have 2 different Bluetooth devices connected at the same time. If you and your wife, your kids are both connected at the same time, as soon as somebody else hits pause, somebody else can jump in there and start playing their track. But both can be connected at the same time rather than having to disconnect and then reconnect the phone right afterwards. And one other additional announcement, we are going to be launching a line of higher end, as far as executive style Bluetooth portable speakers. The one on the top over there is actually a genuine leather wrap. I think I actually have a slide on that rather than just talking. A genuine leather wrap in it. It's Bluetooth 3.0. It's got built-in hands-free operation, 7 hours of battery time. It's in a very nice small package. And the unique thing, it actually has 2 drivers that face upwards onto this spheric type plastic enclosure that radiates the sound 360 degrees. So if I put it in the middle of a group of people, everybody hears the exact same thing. Most Bluetooth speakers have drivers that fire one direction. So you have to point it, put it away from everybody, and point it at where you want to listen to music. So it's a little bit unique. The unique thing about this, it will only be sold from pioneerelectronics.com. It will not be sold at normal channels at this time. And with that, that's where we line up. And we do have a Q&A session. I think other people will come up as well. Right? I think Ted and Russ were going to come up as well. Or maybe not Russ.
Any questions?
Marge?
When you put up the slide about the AVRs, I noticed they two of the same model number with the same.
Oh, sorry. It's the SC85 at $1,600, the SC87 at $2,000, and the SC89 at $3,000. It was a late night, apparently. Yes.
A question about the freebie. Freebie. Yeah, I wish it was freebie. One of the things that a lot of people have a complaint about when they're using portable speakers as a hands-free device, some people say, well, you know, it's just a little bit, not yours, but just a little bit clearer or a little bit louder than my cell phone, so why should I use that as a hands-free call? Have you gotten past that problem?
That is a great question, and unfortunately I cannot answer it because they literally arrived here in New York yesterday, and the first time I touched one was this morning. But I'm more than happy if you want to come up to the booth after the press conference, we can hook up your cell phone and we can give it a shot. Joe?
Are any of your other existing AVRs upgradable to Atmos?
Unfortunately, not at this time. And the reason I say not at this time is one of the things that we had to do to accommodate the Atmos codec was to increase the speed of the DSP chips in our AVRs. And unfortunately, the previous generation models do not have the speed needed to decode Atmos in real time. So we had to change out the DSPs for this year's models to accommodate that. Harris?
2 questions. One is, I think we should get another photograph of Mr. Johnson.
It has been quite a bit of time.
I'm missing that photograph. The question is that for a lot of people, that adding that extra wires to the back of their listening room,
Yes.
that could be quite a logistical problem because a lot of people have already remodeled or put up wiring. Can you run it with just the 2 front speakers in Atmos mode, and then, which are top firing, and leave the back ones as traditional speakers?
You can actually run, even though we're offering a 9-channel system, you can do a 5.1.2 and only have 2 of the height channels. You can choose either the fronts or the rears. I will say that if you already run wires to the back, just take some tape one set to the next and start pulling them on through, which can be done. But if it's a new installation, obviously, running 1 set and running 2 should not be different. But you can run those modes. The effect will not be the same, though. As we get closer and closer to launch and more demos, especially at CEDA, there'll be full-blown demos from everybody. I think you'll have a great opportunity to be able to hear the difference between the full-blown ceiling one and then the Dolby-enabled version, as well as a 5.1.2 versus a 5.1.4. So you can judge for yourself what you think is the best experience. In our opinion, so far it's been the 9-channel experience, the 5.1, but it does work the other direction as well. Joe? So sorry. Joe? Yeah.
The speakers are shipping in August too, and secondly, Dolby has talked about speaker modules that could be added on top of existing speakers. Are you going to plan that, or could you offer separate height speakers that I could put on the wall, for example?
So we have, yes, the speakers are shipping in late August as well. We have talked about the modules. As you know, our existing entry-level Pioneer lineup, the top of the speakers are flat. So it would be possible to add a module. We haven't made that decision yet, whether or not we would add those on top or make a brand new version of it that we can upgrade. Every time we do change models, we do tend to upgrade them. So that's an option, but we haven't decided yet. And in the back, I think we had a question right there as well. Oh.
Hi.
Sorry. Yes.
Content. How will the consumer get content in Dolby Atmos to play in your new audio systems?
So what I'm allowed to say is that Blu-ray disc players, existing Blu-ray disc players, streaming media boxes, and a variety of different content. In the demos that we're running upstairs, you will see one of my off-the-shelf Blu-ray disc players running an authored Blu-ray disc and delivering an Atmos experience. But as far as for theatrical content coming, that will need to be directed to the studio or to Dolby. As you saw, the video showed 80. There's been over 100 titles since that video was made, and literally that exact same soundtrack that goes on the theatrical content is the same soundtrack they would put on the disc. It just looks at the receiver, sees how many channels you have, and then down mixes it for the environment that you have at home. Oh, did he leave? I think he got offended. Oh, same question, perfect. Okay. Any other questions for myself or Ted? Then thank you very much for joining us.